Hello, this is Aprille Walker from the Yoga Ranger Studio, and today's practice is a short Yin AM practice focused on your quadriceps. So a lot of people have a lot of tension built up in their quadriceps, athletes, runners, just normal people. Particularly those of us who sit a lot, which is pretty much everybody, we build up a lot of tension here in the hip flexor and into the quads. So these poses are meant to completely stretch that out. Couple of props you will need will be a blanket underneath for your comfort, that is totally optional, and a second blanket for some of our poses, although once again you might not even have to have this, so just have one ready. I have a pillow there, we're not using it. Lucy has commandeered it, so that's for her. We're going to start with deer pose. So take that blanket, fold it up a couple of times behind you. Go ahead and sit down. Bring the bottoms of your feet out in front of you together. Just for a few breaths here, settle into your practice. Kind of let your hips settle a little bit off the edge of that blanket. And just feel the opening in the legs just from this position. It's a rainy day here in Texas, which I will admit, coming from Seattle, is a little rare here in Texas, so it makes me very sleepy and restful. It's kind of nice. Go ahead and take that right leg out to the right, curl it back. So your foot can be in a 90-degree angle, or you can flip it over. It depends on where you feel comfortable here. Use the blanket to give you a little support so that you can be upright. So many people lean really far over to the left. You really want to get as much toward the middle, right down the center to the midline as much as you can. This is going to give you that big, nice, deep stretch in the front hip flexor and a little bit of opening in this left hip flexor as well. So feel very grounded in this pose. Hips on the floor, center down, relaxed. There are several meridians that are centrally located up through this area of the quadriceps and the hip flexors, the spleen and stomach meridians, which this time of year are very important. In the fall time area of fall equinox and transition, these are really great meridians to focus on to help your digestion, to help you feel less anxious and worried and overwhelmed. So starting here, settle into your practice. Allow your breath to extend on the exhale a little longer than your inhale. And mentally think about releasing the muscle engagement. Our quadriceps tend to always want to engage. Sometimes you have to mentally tell them to sort of shut down for now. We want to look at the connective tissue, not the muscles. Just about 3 more breaths here. Last deep inhale and exhale. Then go ahead and lean a little bit over to the left. Bring that right foot back to center. And just wave your knees a little bit, butterfly wings. So if you are new to Yin Yoga and this is one of your first practices, we look at connective tissue, ligaments, bones, and joints in this practice. Go ahead and take that left leg over to the left. Knowing that the two sides are never the same, we're not like butterflies. Know that this leg may feel completely different, so lift yourself up and prop yourself however you need to stay upright here. We take our poses at about 2/3 of our maximum because we hold these poses anywhere from 1 to 8 minutes depending on your practice and the pose. You don't want to go as deep as you possibly could because it's very difficult to sustainably hold that position, and it will be quite uncomfortable. Know that yin poses are not graceful most of the time, and that they are not necessarily comfortable. You want to feel some tension, some pulling. That is good. But if you feel sharp shooting pains or pains that make you breathless, you want to come out of that pose or start to release out of the pose partially or take a variation of it. Once again, settling into the breath, exhaling, extending that exhale a little bit longer. That'll help release the tension in the hips. Just about 4 more deep breaths. Last deep inhale and exhale. Go ahead and lean over to the right. Bring that left foot back in nice and slow. Wave your butterfly wings. So after every pose in yin, we take what we call a transition pose, which would be something like this, to help sort of bring everything back to where it was. Let you sense what's going on. So our next pose is going to be the dragon pose. We're going to take that blanket across to protect your knee because we're going to be in this for a little while. Bring both knees up onto that blanket. Take your right leg out in front. I like to walk my leg out a little bit further. Take your hands down, flip those back toes, lift the knee, shift it back a little bit, and then roll forward a little bit. So you're going to kind of drag the knee towards you. This is going to shift the weight onto the top side of the knee versus the kneecap itself. Take your right hand on your thigh and your left hand on top of it. We're going to be here for about 3 minutes. If your knee really bugs you here, you can also flip your toes. That's going to take some of the discomfort out of the knee. You want to have this right knee directly above the ankle or behind it for a deeper stretch. Take these first few breaths to sort of settle into the pose and feel gravity sort of pulling your hips down toward the floor. And just follow your breath. Just about 1 more minute here. Notice all the sensations going on. The deep stretch. And just feel all these things. Keep your breath deep and long. Just about 2 more breaths. Go ahead and lean over, take your hands down to the floor. You're going to start to shift your weight back very slowly and carefully. Take that knee back behind you onto the blanket, palms flat. You're going to shift back into downward facing dog just for a few breaths here. Shake your head out, yes and no. Walk your dog out. And then go ahead and come back down onto your knees. We're going to shift sides. So take that left leg out in front. Walk it out a little bit further, fingertips down. You'll lift that back knee, roll it forward so you get a little bit of the kneecap, the top side of it. Settle into your pose, either foot flipped or flat. Left hand first and the right hand on top. A little bit of a stretch. Feel yourself settle in these first breaths. Allow your exhale to kind of bring gravity with you. You're halfway through. Recognize that every pose comes to an end, so no matter how uncomfortable you may be here in this pose, it will end. Last deep inhale and exhale. Exhale, hands down to the floor. Start to walk yourself back. Bring both knees onto that blanket. Palms flat. Step back to your downward facing dog again here. And then go ahead and come down, take that blanket off to the side for now. Put it down in front here. And just bring your toes together, knees a little bit closer. I often take a wide child's pose, but this time we're going to take a really close one. So bring them really close together. You can stack your hands on top of one another, fists on top of one another, or you can rest your forehead on the floor if that's accessible to you, or you can take your arms out in front. Now I like the stacked fists because that really gets into my quads, and that's what we're focusing on here. 5 more deep breaths here. Go ahead and start to press yourself back up. We're going to grab hold of that second blanket or beach towel, unroll it, and we're going to roll it up into a roll. Nice, tight, supported roll here. We're going to lay it down right down the middle. Press it down just a little bit in preparation for our next pose. So our next pose is saddle pose. We're going to take a half saddle pose. So for those of you who are not used to Yin language, we changed the names a little bit. This would be half Virasana or half hero pose. We're going to start with our right leg out straight, left leg behind us. So lean over to your right. You're going to take your thumb. You're going to kind of iron those calf muscles out to the left and back behind you. You can fold this foot outward or back behind. Take that blanket about a fist distance away and slowly lower yourself down. So at the start, your knee may come off the floor, and that is perfectly all right. If this is not enough, you can stack a couple of pillows underneath you or use a bolster. But if you just have a couple of towels, this is a great way to do it. Over time, your knee will start to just come down to the floor naturally. So I did not actually push it down. It just sort of let go. We're going to be here for about 3 minutes total. So I know for many people this pose is very challenging, so just allow yourself to sort of breathe into it. If you want to, you can take your hands underneath your hips and lift the hips up, or you can take your hands and keep them underneath the hips. That's going to change how this feels on your quadricep. Close your eyes and breathe. This is a great pose to strengthen the ligaments and joints around the knee. So if you feel this in your knee, as long as it's not a sharp shooting pain, you are building some strength there and some mobility. It can be very useful and very healthy for that joint. Last minute here. come out of this pose, you're going to go ahead and bring your elbows up a little bit, lift your chin to your chest, and start to kind of press up using your hands. Lean over to the right, take that left leg out. Give it a little rub down, wiggle the toes. And then you're going to switch sides. Take that right leg back behind you by leaning over to the left. Take your thumb, roll that calf muscle back and out to the side. This is going to make room for your leg to come back. Start to lean yourself back down. Now I know for me, this leg is a little bit harder, a little bit more uncomfortable. Now if you want to make this practice a little bit harder, you can always bend that other knee. And that's going to add a lot more stretch in there. So your choice to make here, modification-wise. Settle yourself in, close your eyes and breathe. Let gravity pull that knee down. And it may not get down to the floor, and that's still okay. You're still getting a nice stretch. Remember to allow your breath to lengthen. This is going to help relax that tension. Allow your body to release into the pose itself. Last few breaths. Once again, tuck those elbows underneath, lift your chin to your chest, and start to make your way up. You can lean over to the left, bring that right foot back in front, give it a little rub down, wiggle your toes. I like to watch everything pink back up in my feet. And then to our last few poses here, you can take that blanket off to the side. You won't need that. We're going to take cat pulling its tail. So some people love this pose, some people don't. You're going to take yourself onto your left side. Take that left hand out, stack your knees, walk that shoulder out as far as you can, and then reach back around. Take that left leg back out from underneath you and grab hold of that left foot with your right hand. So opposite arm, opposite foot. You can take that right foot out in front of you, or you can keep it bent. Think about rolling that right shoulder open a little bit. Now the leg behind you, try to bring that foot down toward the floor. It's going to give you more equal stretch on both sides of your knee and your quadricep. Start to release that left foot. Roll onto your back. Take the feet wide, hands wide, heels relaxed. Let your toes fall in or out wherever they may. Just take 3 deep breaths here. To our other side. So roll onto your right side, taking that right arm out to the right, stacking the hips to start with. You're going to shift that left leg back, grab hold of it. I like to grab the inside of my foot, shift that leg back, and then take your left leg out in front. It's going to start kind of high off from the floor, and then over time you're going to kind of allow it to shift down toward the floor. Allow that left shoulder to drift toward the floor as well. That's going to help take that foot with you. You can stack that left foot or take it out in front. Just about 1 more minute. Release that bottom foot, slowly roll onto your back. Take your feet wide, arms out to the side, settle in, tuck the shoulder blades underneath for Shavasana. Sense how the left and right sides feel now. And feel that energy or that tingling in your quadriceps and the front side of your hips. these last few breaths to allow your body to settle, your mind to settle. No matter what time of day that you practice Yin, know that this is a very introspective, quieting practice. If you are looking to mobilize the tissue more and gain more mobility and flexibility, Yin is best practiced in the morning. If you are looking to soften and relax and release tension throughout the body, then it is a great practice to practice the rest of the day, later in the day or at night. Gently begin to bring your feet flat. On your inhale, take your arms up overhead, stretch through your fingertips. Exhale, roll over to your right side and pause here for a breath or two. Making your way up whenever you are ready to whatever seated position you like best. Take your hands to your heart. Peace and namaste. I hope you enjoyed this practice, and if you did, please like and comment down below and subscribe if you'd like to see more of these throughout the week. I upload about 3 times a week now. I hope you have a wonderful day and that your quadriceps feel much better. Peace and namaste.